Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you and the ranking member for doing everything you could to have a good hearing. And I really mean that, Mr. Chairman. You have been, to me, one of the great mentors of mine in the Senate, but watching you here is the best of Durban, your best hits, I think, in trying to do this. And I will say to the guy you're smiling at right now, I don't know if I help you or hurt you when I say such nice things about you, sir, but you are a gentleman. I spent a lot of time in Iowa, and you exemplify Iowa nice, and I appreciate the way you've done it. This has been an interesting experience. I often think maybe we should be holding this hearing during December because, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you know about the vaunted holiday of Festivus, which is the holiday for the rest of us during the holidays. And one of the aspects of Festivus is the airing of grievances. And I think that we've had probably the best Festivus celebration here in this hearing over the last week or so, because there's been a lot of airing of grievances. Now, I'm one of these people that thinks that there's no false equivalency here, that the grievances that I've seen since I've been here, from the ridiculousness of Merrick Garland and when he was nominated, not even having a hearing, not even meeting with him, or even some of the language. I recently looked at one of the quotes from one of the people on this committee on the Republican side, who talked about if Hillary Clinton won, we should just leave any Supreme Court vacancies if the Republicans control the court. But I'm also self-interrogated enough to know that I shouldn't just sit here and air my grievances and listen to their grievances. And that's why I'm really appreciative of Ben Sass, Senator Sass, and I think the Oxford English Dictionary is now a new word for next year, jackassery. I want to thank Tom Tillis. I don't, again, agree with his equivalencies on everything, but I see an earnest person trying to figure out how we can make sense of this place and return more to patriotism, less towards partisanship. And I've listened to every time he spoke, he's made appeals to those higher angels, and I'm grateful for that. I really do worry about where we are spiraling towards. I worry about hearings like this, where the majority of people on both sides, I think, were well within the zone, but I heard things that were just ridiculous and painful and hurtful. And I do worry, and I hope that maybe when the cameras are off and some of us can get together and talk about how do we repair and how do we heal. I have not resigned myself to the inevitability of this is where the United States Senate is going. And the collateral damage to this, and it's not all us, I think the Supreme Court has done enough damage to itself with its lax ethics rules, but the legitimacy of the court has sunk pretty dramatically over the last years, and I think a lot of it is because of the spectacle that we've seen here and now, and that really concerns me. Look, I think it was I know it was President Lincoln who said, "The world will little note nor long remember what we say here," and I know that's from my words as well. This is a frustrating experience to see this happen, but I want to make a couple points and then shift to my final point. I think we do real damage to our own agendas here as elected leaders when we so vilify each other that we create these caricatures. I made the mistake in one Supreme Court hearing, and it was not intentional, but even when it came out of my mouth, in talking about a Supreme Court justice, I used the word evil. I did not intend to do it, and if context, I think, might save me, but how horrible it is to describe another human being with terms like I've heard here, evil. I remember my governor, who was a Republican, my friend, was running for president, and the right had so vilified Obama, had so dehumanized him, that when my governor and Obama hugged after a natural disaster, it was used in campaign commercials against my governor, and he dropped over 10 points because he did the sin of somebody that we had so vilified, so demonized, that human interaction, that a hug is such a violation of our tribe that it actually hurt them. I sometimes see some of my friends that might run for president on the other side. I think I might foil their campaigns by going around hugging them. Because that's where we've gotten in America right now. We've so vilified each other. And that's why I just want to address the absurdity of the vilification of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Even the rhetoric I've heard used here, I kept writing things down. Judge Jackson is not an extremist. She is not out of the judicial norm. I've heard language, I won't read through all the attacks on her that I've heard in this hearing today, not to mention the previous days. I'm sorry, who does the American public want to believe? A bunch of elected senators or the independent folks that are out there? To say she's an extremist on crime belies the fact that she has law enforcement group after law enforcement group supporting her. So if you want to say that she is an extremistly soft on crime, then you're saying that about the FOP, you're saying that about the IACP. Go through all the organizations. If I hear another person trying to wrap themselves in the obvious that all 22 of us find abhorrent sexual crimes and somehow want to glorify themselves to being, hey, I'm a prosecutor. Well, both people on both sides. I got my back full of prosecutors over here. And I see noble people that did the Lord's work of prosecuting these crimes as well. But here's the absurdity to say that somehow she is not strong against these cases. Again, these are just lies. A senator just said, I believe the guidelines are right. Well, obviously, Republican-appointed judges don't agree with him because the norm in many states is 70 to 80% of judges going before the guideline. And if that statement is correct, then why didn't you vote against every one of those Republican judges that was not following the guidelines, as most don't? You could try to create a straw man here, but it does not hold. And it's just frustrating to me to listen to people trying to create a caricature of a human being whose family is law enforcement, who is a parent, and who is well within the norm on these cases. And again, I'm an elected official just like my colleagues on the other side, so don't believe me. Believe all the victims' rights advocates that have written in on this issue. There are organizations that represent hundreds and hundreds of organizations on victims of sexual assault, women and children. I don't need to read the horrific stuff that they deal with every single day, but God bless America. The National Children's Alliance, a national organization that works on behalf of children who have been sexually abused. They have 924 member organizations. All would concur with the a conservative magazine that called what my colleague and Senator Hawley is saying, that these things that he's saying are meritless, on the verge of demagoguery. And so I could go through all the things that balance the world out here, because you come in here and the way we talk about each other, the way we talk about justice is so disrespectful. I respect the criticisms. I voted against Amy Coney Barrett. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but the way we talk about each other, the rhetoric that is so disrespectful, so much of a caricature, so far out of the lines of what independent groups and law enforcement and victim advocacies that support this candidate would say. Which brings me to the final point I want to make. I am hearing from people, not just black women, but particularly black women, who have been relating to me their stories about having to come into a room where you're more qualified than the people who are sitting in judgment of you, and having to endure the absurdities of disrespect that we saw Judge Jackson endure. The stories I'm hearing are replete from folks in all kind of jobs and all kind of experiences in their lives who are so qualified, so worthy, and what they've had to endure. And that's what struck a chord this week. I don't think, again, we are going to have our political substantive disagreements, but it was the treatment in some of these questions that triggered a hurt in so many people I know and have encountered. How could they create these caricatures? How could they create these exaggerations? How could they disrespect a person like her who's done everything right in her life and in her journey? How? How qualified do you have to be, double Harvard? How qualified do you have to be clerking at all levels of the federal judiciary? How qualified do you have to be 3 times confirmed by the Senate in a bipartisan manner? And so, Senate, I have to say, today is the birthday of a great poet named Maya Angelou. And so I'm just going to end with those words. Why is this poem strike a chord with so many Americans? Because they feel it to their bones. And so this is in honor of Maya Angelou and the next Supreme Court Justice of the United States of America. Happy birthday, Maya, Dr. Angelou. You may try to write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me down in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. Rise, Sister Jackson. Rise, Judge Jackson, all the way to the highest court in the land. And when we have that final vote, I will rejoice, ancestors will rejoice, and we will say, Lord, this is a day that you have made. Thank you.